Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Saturday, October 25th, 2025, and today we are going to be talking about, again, the state of Indiana, as the former Republican governor comes out very publicly in an op-ed that he got published. This op-ed came out urging the state's Republican leaders to politely decline the White House's request to change their congressional boundaries ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. Now, if you don't know the news in Indiana, the Republican Party has been coming to this state as one that Republicans won on the presidential level in the last cycle by roughly 19 points. Democrats got roughly 40% of the vote here, but in the House races, Democrats hold just 2 seats out of the total number of 9. Less than a quarter of the seats across the state. And the reason why that matters is because it does show that the Republican Party has near and total dominance over the congressional boundaries in the state of Indiana. They drew in an excessive GOP gerrymander, and they did so in a way that made it so the Democrats could only win one reliable district and would have a pretty competitive one up in the 1st district that Kamala Harris only won by roughly half a point. But the Indiana Republicans have received calls from Donald Trump and J.D. Vance himself, who has traveled to the state twice as top White House officials follow suit as well, going to the Republicans in the state House and the state Senate, asking them to draw additional boundaries to make this 1st district a safe Republican district, giving the GOP an automatic pickup. Now, the reason why they want that is quite obvious. In the 2026 midterms, Republicans are bracing for defeat on the House level, but in the 1st district in specific, the Democrats here have been remarkably lucky when it comes down to their incumbency status, being able to do well in the district. Frank Mervan, who has represented this district for quite some time, won by 9 points in the last election, as I said, reminding you again that Kamala Harris only won the district by roughly half a point. So in a redder environment and in a red wave year, Republicans could, in theory, get the 1st district, but they know that's not likely to come in 2026, and they know on the national level that they're probably going to be blown out of the water in Senate races, House races, gubernatorial races, and all across the board. Now, Republicans didn't go to Indiana first. We know that they went to Texas. They went, to the state of North Carolina. They got new maps drawn there. North Carolina just approved their congressional boundaries, taking out North Carolina's 1st district, a district that is currently represented by Democratic Representative Don Davis. But he's out of there. That district is far gone for the Democrats in 2026. So Indiana serves to be as one of these few states where Republicans have the ability to change the maps here and change the math of the 26 midterms. But Republicans have found themselves at a halt. The Indiana Republican Senate leader, their spokesperson, came out and said that Donald Trump and the Republicans do not have the votes to change the maps for 2026. They don't have the ability to, change the way that the American public, the way that the Indiana public votes on the maps here, because there is not enough of an appetite for the 26 midterms, enough of an appetite from those in the state Senate to pass the map. The state House isn't really the issue. The problem is that in the state House, these Republicans could very well be individually targeted if they oppose any type of change to the congressional boundaries. In the state Senate, however, these Republicans that are in opposition, many of them are not up for re-election for 4 years. Many of them are not running for re-election again in their next term. And so they have the ability, without any type of consideration as to the electoral ramifications of it, they have the ability to hold out on voting yes on this map. And so we've known this for a while. We talked about it a bit yesterday in a video as the New Hampshire Republican governor came out and also said they will not be redrawing the state boundaries there, even though Democrats are outnumbered by Republicans in the state House 2-1, and Republicans have dominance over the Republican-controlled, obviously, right, state Senate in New Hampshire. The Republicans do not have enough votes. They do have enough votes, do not have the signature of the governor to move forward with a congressional redraw for 2026. And now that there is another top Republican, the former governor of the state of Indiana, coming out and urging the Republicans in this state, don't cave to the White House. Going to, the Republicans here and saying, it's not right that the map changes. It's not right that X, Y, and Z is going to happen, because what we know is that at baseline, the Indiana maps here were probably not going to be in a great position based off the state votes. On the other hand, as more Republicans do come out and do push back against this administration and do say it is wrong what you are doing, you will find that it will not only just be something that is a statement in and of itself, it actually provides the permission for many of these Republicans to hold out. Now, obviously, an acknowledgement that, he understands the immense pressure that these Republicans are in and says that, this is obviously a very, very difficult position to be in. But he says that I hope they will quietly, because not very public in the way he's doing about it with the op-ed that he's writing, and respectfully pass on this idea. And it isn't as if he doesn't want Republicans to win the midterms. It's the first thing he mentions, that he supports the outcome, but not the tactics, right? That Republicans would win the midterms, but not by a means of cheating out the voters in Indiana who already are underrepresented on the terms of Democratic representation versus Republican representation. Every single Republican in the House from Indiana knows that their district was drawn to be non-competitive. None of them know how to run a close race. None of them would win in a swing state. None of them would be in a great position because they've never had to be in that way, right? The primary is the real election in Indiana, and everything else is sort of just a formality. And that makes sense, right? The Republicans drew the map to benefit themselves. But in this addition here, what the GOP governor also notes too is that in his knowledge of residents in Indiana, there are times where the voters will sour on the elected officials in their state. Because Indiana, as much as it is a red state now, Indiana has found itself in whiplash in recent memory. In 2004, George W. Bush won Indiana by 21 points. Donald Trump only won it by 19 in 2024. The reason I point it out is because in 2004, 20 years prior, George W. Bush winning Indiana by 21 points did not prevent Indiana from voting for the Democrats in the next election. And I'm not talking about a Senate race. Barack Obama won Indiana by roughly a point in 2008. A big reason for that is because a lot of the voters in Indiana that had been reliably quite conservative had abandoned the GOP. They turned on the party that looks very similar to the map that we're working with in 2024 and 2004. I mean, not really much of a difference there. But between 2004 and 2008, a lot of these voters felt as if the National Republican Party and many of the voters across the state felt that the GOP in Indiana in the state house had abandoned them as well. And what that did, and what it ended up with, was ushering in Obama winning in a state that George W. Bush won by 21 percentage points. It was one of the most massive shifts of any state, and believe it or not, the Republicans in office remember it. It was one of these few states that actually shifted over 15 points to the left. Other states include Nebraska, North Dakota, which came down to being single digits in 2008. Montana shifted 18 points to the left, which came down to being 2 points in 2008. Utah even, believe it or not, shifted 17 points to the left. Nevada, 15 points. New Mexico, 16 points. Indiana joins that bunch as a state that did so. And that isn't to say that Indiana would suddenly vote blue because Republicans are passing a new map here. But the caution is met with a bit of historical context that kind of explains why there is this needed warning from a former governor. Why there is this needed concern from someone who has ran this state before and knows how to win an election statewide in Indiana. Because I do think that there is this very real fear for many Republicans nationwide that yes, their red states can pass these maps, but the perception and the impact on the American public is overall negative and doesn't put them in a great position. It doesn't benefit House Republicans as more and more Americans start to see and realize that it is the GOP changing the maps because they simply cannot win an election in 2026 to save their life. And I think that is coming across in a very sour and negative way to the American voters. And it's something that I think will make an impact on 2026. And to the degree that it does, we just have to wait and see. But another Republican, not just one random House rep, state senator, you are talking about a former governor who served in Indiana and also came into this, with the notability of being in this role and saying, I know that you are under immense pressure. The White House wants you involved, and I agree Republicans should win the 2026 midterms, but not this way. Not by a means of bypassing the same voters that elected every single one of these state reps and state senators who are actively looking to change the maps again. Because it's already drawn in such a lopsided way, and anything further could be seen as a transgression against many of the voters in the state of Indiana, and it just simply seems like something that some of these Indiana Republicans do not believe their party should have to deal with, and that the maps themselves right now should stay the same. Whether or not this governor has the political capital and political weight, as the same way the state Senate leader does as well, to get the no votes in line and consistent in their opposition, we'll have to wait and see. But as it stands right now, it certainly is not a good sign that yet again another top elected official in Indiana on the Republican side is standing up against the president of his own party and pushing back against a mid-decade redraw that serves only to benefit the GOP in a way that seems very wrong across the board, and it takes Republicans to call out other Republicans in this state for it to make an impact. And the question is, will we wait and see if it happens, or will they listen to the call and end up pushing back against Donald Trump's plea? So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the top left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video for you to watch, and then a playlist for my 2026 House election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.